In this era of deep complexity,
He's a friend of CNN. That's why nobody watches CNN anymore, because they have no credibility.
beyond the edges of black or white,
America is going to reach heights that it has never seen before. The future is going to be amazing!
it's time to be notionally accurate.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was in the foothills of the Himalayas with Xi Jinping.
Here are your hosts, Captain Kirk and some guy named Jason.
Welcome one and all to the 16th episode of the Notionally Accurate podcast, produced live right here at the One Man's Burden Studios in my undisclosed compound, located in the balmy tundra of Miami, Antarctica. My name is Captain Kirk and I'll be your affable host. Joining me is my co-host, some guy named Jason, as we begin with a discussion on DOGE, the Trump administration effort to streamline and make efficient the United States government, the criticisms of DOGE, and the DOGE dividend. We then hash out why President Trump is boxing out Zelenskyy amid peace talks in the Eastern European War.
I think it's unique. It's the first of its kind, right? In American history. I mean, it's in order for you to, in theory, fix the system, you'd have to get somebody outside the system to fix it. Because I've heard that what they're doing right now, it's so dramatic that the Republicans are nervous about it too. Some of the Republicans and conservatives are nervous about the cuts, because what they've done in the past is they've made cuts, but they don't make that deep of cuts, right?
Joining me now is New York Republican Representative Nicole Malliotakis.
Look, at the end of the day, this is about making sure we don't have unintended consequences. Just last week, we saw how the firing across the board, firing at CDC, led to 16 World Trade Center healthcare program workers, people who are treating 9/11 victims and first responders, and grants that go to 9/11 illnesses. That was being cut. They threw out the baby with the bathwater. We had to go and then work with the White House to get that reversed and those individuals reinstated and the grants reinstated. That's what I'm trying to avoid here, right? To make sure that we're doing this with a scalpel and not a sledgehammer.
So apparently Elon and DOGE are making such deep cuts that it's making pretty much, I wouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people nervous. And you have two alpha males. Both are incredibly successful. Both have, I don't know, mental issues to a degree, right? I mean,
Elon is definitely an artist.
Yeah, but he's wicked.
He's on the spectrum.
Yeah, he's on something, but he's
right.
Wicked smart. I mean, I don't think. What's interesting is he's just cutting everything, because they haven't built anything, have they? Like,
well, it's not a construction company, so.
Right. Well, but that's what I'm saying, though. It's one of those things where they're going through and cutting things, but they're not like replacing things. So it's very odd that the criticism is that he's trying to isolate power, but it's like he's getting rid of the
consolidate power.
Yeah.
Right.
So
that's what they're accusing the Trump administration of. So as far as constructing anything or replacing anything, how do you replace, underwater transgender basket weaving going out to Guatemala for tens of billions of dollars? You don't really replace it with anything, What do you think about the DOGE dividend? The idea of taking all the recuperated money, sending out $5,000 checks.
Yeah.
Yep.
$5,000. Are they saying $5,000? Is that what they said?
That's what Elon endorsed just a couple days ago.
Hell yeah, I'm for that. Absolutely. $5,000 a person?
Correct, yeah.
And under Trump's leadership, we've already saved $55 billion. Let's let this experiment run for another year and a half, get to $2 trillion, and send every American a check for $5,000 saying, we are back, the government is accountable, respectful, and honest again. That is what the golden age is all about.
Dude, do you know how many Burger King original chicken sandwiches I can get with $5,000?
So I did the math. It's actually 875.
Those are delicious. I don't know why I love them. I love them. And every time I eat them,
we are not sponsored by Burger King.
We are not. Although if they want to, that'd be great. But every time I do have an original chicken sandwich, I instantly regret it.
I immediately regret this decision.
Instantly. I want them so bad, and then
but they're so good.
So good. No, I think the relationship between Elon and Trump is, because I listen to some kind of left-leaning podcasts too, and they were talking about how some of them feel bad because they're rooting for Trump. Because they feel like Elon's being a big bully with Trump, and Trump's not standing up for himself. And so they're like, I feel weird because I'm kind of like, oh, come on, Trump, stand up for yourself, I don't know. I don't think Trump would be pushed around by anybody.
How does Trump get bullied by somebody on the spectrum?
I don't know.
I don't think that's happening. I don't believe it.
I don't think it's happening. But I mean, they have. If anything, too, Elon's a hell of a shield. He can take all of the flack. Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, I don't know.
Let the Democrats aim their fire on Elon Musk, and then Donald Trump can sign the executive orders.
Well, and I would say, I mean, and tell me if you agree with me on this, but I would say the average person, the average American, is in favor of cuts, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Because I've
like
actually,
broadly speaking, just cuts.
Right. And I told you this before the show that I was playing a poker game yesterday, and there was a gentleman I play with that he works for the government, and his job is like he's nervous. He's really nervous about it, and he's a good employee, and he's been working there for whatever and for however long, and doesn't really deserve to be fired, but he's nervous. And he's kind of upset about it. And it was just a very interesting angle, because I was like, oh, I never thought of it from like, hey, dude, this is how I got my house. Now what?
Right.
But
I don't want to dox the individual, but where does he happen to work at?
I don't remember. I think when he was talking about it, I think I was going for a busted straight. So I don't really remember all of it. But honestly, dude, it was, yeah.
There goes your
so I wasn't
life savings.
Attention. Yeah, I wasn't paying complete attention. No, but it's just, like, do you think the average American actually does want these cuts?
I think Americans would support cuts. The issue is when you drill down what should be cut. Historically, again, generally speaking, you can't touch Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, things of that nature. And you can hardly make a dent in the military budget. The cuts that DOGE is going after, on the one hand, it's supposed to be so important for the vitality of American diplomacy abroad. But then you look at the numbers, the percentage compared to the budget, it's like 0.2%. Right. So now, if you can claw back some of that money, redirect it, that's great, but you're just feeding the beast with the canceled contracts and fired employee salaries that aren't going to be paid out. You're just feeding it back into the Leviathan.
Right. Well, and I think that's going to be a huge barometer about all these cuts is the economy, because inflation's still there, and
they're trying to blame Trump for that.
Well, and that's okay. Well, that's the. I mean, you can. That's the price you pay for playing. I mean, he's president. That's his job. I don't. If you're a quarterback of a football team, it's your fault. You know what I mean? Like, right. Whether you deserve it or not, it's your fault. That's part of the job. Get used to it. The point is, though, what I'm saying is these cuts will be popular, or will be seen as popular if they can turn the economy around. And I don't know much about finance, right? To me, it doesn't make any sense.
Hey.
Anyway. No, but in theory, And I don't know, like I said. But in theory, if we all got $5,000, I think that'd really help out the old economy. You know what I mean? Wouldn't it? It'd help out my personal economy. My economy would be booming. I'd be out of my little. That'd be great. You know what I mean? Well, so wouldn't that help everybody?
So
if they did that?
My point about bringing up the critics of Donald Trump blaming him for the increasing inflation is that those same people were defending Biden. And you've seen the clips on the various left-wing podcasts, I'm sure, about how inflation is transitory, temporary, it'll pass, no problem. They were repeating the same talking points back then.
They said that 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, with Biden.
Right.
And now they're attacking Trump for it, even though he hasn't really passed any spending bills. So these hypocrites are just, they need to be pointed out that it's not Donald Trump's fault that we have our inflation problem. These people who blame Trump are saying that providing $5,000 checks to people using money from DOGE will be inflationary. But the problem is that unlike stimulus checks, you're not printing money because this is money that's already been clawed back. So you're not going to increase inflation.
Yeah.
You'll increase demand, which will increase supply. We are trying to decouple from China. It's a process. It's a bit of a process, but we are trying to decouple from China from some of these other countries. That's why Trump is using tariffs, is trying to bring in investment.
I got a buddy who's trying to decouple, and it's a thing.
Oof.
Yeah. No, decoupling is tough. No, but we can't. I mean, it's in our interest not to be under any foreign thumb.
Yes,
it
is.
That's interesting.
And there's still people subservient to the CCP and making sure that we're the world's police, and it's not going to work like that under this administration.
So is this a thing that could actually happen where we get money like that?
That's definitely what Elon and Trump are talking about. Whether it will actually happen, it will require congressional authority.
Well, if they better do it.
Right.
if that does happen, first thing I'm doing, Korean fried chicken. First thing, bro.
Oh, great idea.
Yeah. See, I'm chocolate.
Is that your Burger King idea?
Are they? When are they going to start auditing the Pentagon? Is that actually going to happen too? And the IRS? What's going on with that?
All right, so let's take the Pentagon.
Yeah.
The Pentagon fails every audit.
Yeah,
I think the last time they had to have an audit, they didn't even have an audit because there's, I don't know, documentation issue or something. And it just was never performed.
We have no pencils, right.
And I'm sure you saw the clip of Jon Stewart talking with, I don't know if it was somebody from the Pentagon or a reporter who's reported on the Pentagon.
Comedian and activist Jon Stewart and Deputy Defense Secretary Kathleen Hicks took part in a discussion about the human impact of military service, transparency with the media, care for veterans, and the Pentagon's auditing process.
But he was like, hey, you guys are wasting all this money. We need an audit of the Pentagon that shows it's handling our money properly.
I may not understand exactly the ins and outs and the incredible magic of an audit, but I'm a human being who lives on the earth and can't figure out how $850 billion to a department means that the rank and file still have to be on food stamps. Like, to me, that's corruption. I'm sorry. And if that blows your mind, and if you think like that's like a crazy agenda for me to have, I really think that that's institutional thinking.
And this lady was just so rude and condescending to John, who wasn't attacking her. He wasn't blaming her for any corruption or waste at the Pentagon. And
that it's not looking at the day-to-day reality of the people that you call the greatest fighting force in the world. So I get back to this idea of like, I'm not looking to pick a fight with you, but I am surprised at that the reaction to these questions are, you don't know what an audit is, bucko. Like, that's just weird to me.
as far as the IRS goes, the IRS had its like low-level staffers, like some 6,000 of them, told to pack up their stuff and leave the office. And there's even a TikTok of some poor 22-year-old bawling her eyes out. Oh, this was my lifelong dream to audit rich people, and now I don't get to do that.
She said that this was her dream position. It was a government job with good benefits and a strong sense of morality. It's a company, an agency that her father worked for, so she was keeping with the family tradition. But it's not just the fact that she lost her job that has her upset. It's the reason why. She says her termination letter told her she was being let go due to performance problems, something that she says was not an issue at all. Take a listen.
I don't think that anyone who was let go was putting in less than the required effort. And I think that most of us were going above and beyond. And those statements are honestly an insult to me. Absolutely. Like I'm getting choked up thinking about that because that's offensive to me.
Clearly fresh out of some left-wing college. And under the Biden administration, they hired 18,000 agents. So this is just cutting a third of the baseline IRS payroll.
Mm-hmm.
They are trying to see if Fort Knox has gold in it. I think it does, but it'd be interesting to see. That's what Trump's demanding. Trump's knocking at the door, metaphorically, demanding an audit of Fort Knox. There's a conspiracy theory, quote unquote. I don't use that term disparagingly. That Fort Knox does not have an account, does not have inventory of America's gold reserves as it is supposed to. And that ties into the broader point about the Federal Reserve and taxation and such. But Donald Trump wants to see if the vault is empty, like Geraldo Rivera and Al Capone's locker.
What if it's not empty? What else? Okay, what else could it be filled with? Like, just like nothing but like cold cuts? Cold cut sandwiches. That would be just
right.
Miles
refrigerated
and miles.
Cold cuts.
Just Italian bread, as far as the eye can see. What do you think would be in there? Pudding, tons of pudding. Why are we keeping all this tapioca? This is ridiculous.
In honor of the last resident of the White House, ice cream.
Well, there's
buckets and buckets of ice cream.
Didn't Nancy Pelosi do that? Where she had she was. That thing in front
she had a very expensive refrigerator that housed a lot of expensive ice cream.
Yeah, so what if it's all just chock full of that? Knoxville's just full of Ben & Jerry and, I don't know.
Haagen-Dazs.
Expensive ice creams, yeah.
This is something you can get through the mail.
Okay.
Never run out. Can I show you?
Me. Yeah, absolutely. This is the episode of Cribs I never knew I needed. Oh, my... Wow.
Other people in our family go for some other flavors, but chocolate, and then we have some other chocolate here.
See, I've always felt a connection with you, and now I understand why.
Well, this is, with every cut and how everything is going, they ruffle feathers more and more every literal minute. So,
and I am here for it.
And this next week is supposed to be, that's supposed to be the Pentagon, right? No. When's that happening? Do we know?
I haven't heard anything about an audit of the Pentagon.
The Pentagon? Just the defense?
It's like the same crap that you would hear about, Epstein's client list. It's on Pam Bondi's desk.
Yeah, I heard
reviewing it. Yeah, don't believe it until it's released.
Epstein's list?
Yeah, I'm a cynical man, so... Do I believe Epstein killed himself? I have my doubts.
No, do you think Epstein's list, because I heard Epstein's list will be released this week. Do you think Epstein's list will be released this week?
No. No.
What's that?
You always hear this hope porn from the QAnon crowd who believe there's a super secret agent within the deep state named Q providing, and you saw the documentary on Max about the QAnon crowd.
Yeah.
Some of them are good patriots just trying to figure out the truth. There are some wackadoos, though. Wackadoos believe everything's going to be released. The storm is coming. we will go into a bright future of heavenly delights, and no, it's not going to happen.
Right. Well, that's
even with Kash Patel being confirmed, which we talked about on the last episode. Nothing's going to be released. Sorry.
Well, that's fun. This is why people listen to the show. Stuff like that. Mm-hmm. That uplifting. Well, we'll see.
Well, that's
it's
nickname, uplifting Captain Kirk.
The thing that I have learned about modern times, sir, is that the moment you think it's not possible, it doesn't exist, something happens, and you're like, "Wow, I never would have guessed that is happening." So we'll see. He might, you might release the lists. I don't know.
I'm perfectly happy to be wrong.
Yeah,
but I don't think I will be.
To switch gears here, what do you think about Trump's new, I guess not new, but his now global position on Zelenskyy? Not a fan. I don't know if you've noticed. Not a fan of Zelenskyy. I don't know what
going
Zelenskyy
to a
did.
Pennsylvania bomb maker and chilling with Democrat governor in the middle of an election would have such
he literally was campaigning with the Democrats.
He was.
And if you look back on that politically, that was quite a gamble that he did that. Like, if he was actually thinking, he would have not really got involved in the election and then obviously then buddied up to whoever won. But instead, he was actually campaigning in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. So the guy is the president of Ukraine, war-torn Ukraine, is in the United States begging for money, and then they have him in Pennsylvania, and he's looking at some warehouse somewhere.
Yeah,
this is the
factory.
Yeah, so I don't know. And so Trump is very anti. I don't know if is he anti-Ukraine or is he anti-Zelenskyy?
I think he's anti-Zelenskyy.
Yeah, is there a difference?
I think there is. Yeah, in the same way that we would say, about the last White House resident, or even how some Democrats talk about this president, love the country, hate the government type thing. So one could appreciate Ukraine and its sovereignty and desire to be separate from Russia, and absolutely hate Zelenskyy. And I think that's the mentality of President Trump.
Well, because he's calling Zelenskyy
dictator.
Dictator, yeah. I mean, he's having some pretty harsh words now. And there's also a part of me too where is he doing this to kind of cool the waters with Russia? You know what I mean? To kind of be like, man, those Ukrainians, they're so stupid, right? Man, yeah, they are so stupid. You should probably stop fighting them, though, right? Yeah, probably. You know what I mean? Like, is it like a way to...
I think he's boxing out Zelenskyy and is going to be the point man, spokesperson for Ukraine when he deals with Russia. What do you think about Donald Trump's referral of Zelenskyy as a dictator?
It's the very counter position to what the American government has been setting up to this point. It's a very interesting strategy. I don't know.
Do you know why he's been called a dictator?
Well, they haven't held an election, right? Now, granted, it's very. I mean, I can imagine it's incredibly difficult to hold an election while you're getting bombed. It'd be very difficult.
And it certainly is.
And while you're in war.
In 1862 and 1864, the U.S. held elections during the U.S. Civil War. At least in 1862, Washington was surrounded. And in 1864, they had more of an upper hand, but they were still in a life or death battle. So with Zelenskyy and the accusations of him being a dictator, part of that, I would imagine, is he got rid of the oldest Russian-speaking newspaper in the country. He jails clergy that he accuses of being pro-Russia. He shuts down printing presses of newspapers and such that criticize him. And so there's a broad spectrum of reasons to accuse him of that. Now, is he really? Well, if you're comparing it to Putin, I am not a fan of Putin, so I'd say it's not much of a contest. But if we're going to be pretending to defend democracy and promote democracy, and then side with somebody who jails political opponents, clergy, shuts down newspapers, well, I think that fits the bill of dictatorship.
Well, see, what's also very interesting is how both the left and the right, how they view Russia and Iran differently. Because to a certain degree,
they ostensibly oppose Russia.
Right.
And then they, in some ways, if not support Iran, they have little criticism of Iran. And their allies, of course.
Yeah. Because you are slightly here defending Russia here a little bit, right?
Oh, absolutely not. They should not have invaded, and their partnership with Iran is reprehensible.
That's it's interesting. I don't know.
Indeed.
I don't know what it's going to do. I guess, in theory, it might be more productive to have the talks without Zelenskyy involved. You know, you can actually get things done, but it's weird to have peace talks without the actual country that's in the war involved, right?
Well, if they would hold elections, we can determine whether or not he would remain as the leader, and then if he got voted out,
and he's not
he would
that
deal
popular.
with the replacement.
Right.
He is not. That's why they canceled elections.
So is he an actual dictator?
I would say he likes to dictate. And so if that makes him a dictator, that fits the bill.
But Ukraine has always been a plaything for the world. And they've always it's really for Europe, you know what I mean? And it's
well, that leads into the discussion of support for or against Russia, and then for or against Iran. Why would, again, broadly speaking, it's not a universality, it's a generality. The left supports Iran and opposes Russia. Why would that be the case? Russia is sweeping through a country that, has been, that they've genocided in the past in the Holodomor in 1933. They want their rare earth minerals, they want the space, and so the left thinks that's inherently Nazification. They don't like Putin because they believe he personally robbed America of a Clinton presidency in 2016. And they support Iran because it finances world terrorism, and especially against Israel, that they also don't support.
Because Israel's imperialistic.
That's correct. At least in the view of its opponents.
Well, but with this MAGA movement and with this MAGA installation, I don't know. The proof's going to be in the pudding, because with Trump, with him doing these outlandish things like talking about Gaza, that Gaza thing's never going to happen. I don't think that's ever going to happen. But him coming up with these ideas,
weren't you just telling me never to have that mentality? Because you never know, something might happen.
Yeah, until it makes sense. No, but but him thinking outside of the box, it could really land. It could really land, or it could really explode, and we don't really know. Like I don't know. They said like almost 1 million Russians have died up to this point. Like if he can stop the war, that would be, however he does it, is the most important thing. You know, plus
it'd be a fantastic mark on his legacy of if he is able to end this war.
And politically too, with Zelenskyy, he can go back to his own people and be like, I got rejected by they could rally around him. It actually could be better for him politically to be ignored.
Trump could be the foil, like what do they call it? A heel in wrestling?
He's the heel, yeah. He's the Elon Musk.
Yeah, hey. It could be Ukraine's lightning rod.
But okay, really quickly though, back to Elon Musk. What's with him and the babies? Maybe we should talk about that later on.
He's a guy that likes to procreate. He's worried about birth rates, and he thinks he's doing his part.
Well, Kirk, I was thinking that if he has one more kid, he'll be like one behind you.
Hey. A little too soon, but it's accurate.
No, we will see. With Trump is definitely someone who has changed things, and I don't know. However he does want to proceed, it's going to be interesting.
He's definitely the disruptor in chief.
Absolutely. And this is what people voted for. And that's something that's hard.
Plurality.
Yeah, and it's a hard thing for some people.
Anyway, thanks for listening to episode 16 of Notionally Accurate. I'm your host, Captain Kirk. Thank you to some guy named Jason. More to come on future episodes. Find this podcast on SoundCloud, Rumble, and YouTube. Follow us on Twitter/X at NotionallyACC. That's at NotionallyACC. Email me at notionallyaccurate@protonmail.com. Take care, and remember, even if you can't be factually correct, you can always be notionally accurate.